Hi, and welcome back for some more tips and tricks around the power of your mind and how to achieve your outcomes and goals. My name is Anna May, and I'm from Accelerated Excellence and True Awakenings NLP Coaching and Training Center. And what I want to talk about today in this video is two of the rules of the unconscious mind. One, that it takes everything personal, and two, that it does not process negatives directly. And so why is this important? Have you ever wondered why, if you watch a sad movie, you feel emotional as well? Or, if the men watch a sports game, they get equally excited. I remember as a child not being able to sit next to my mother when we watched any Rocky movies because her arms would just swing around and she would be fighting with him in that ring. So best you sit on another couch and be safe, right? So why do we do that? Why do we respond that way? What's happening inside that causes that behavior on the outside? So one of the simple rules that the unconscious mind follows is that it takes everything personal. So I want to go back to what we've covered in previous videos and just bring it back to you from the reticular activating system. Everything that we receive via our senses, so all of the information that comes through gets filtered through our book of rules, our experiences, our values, our beliefs, our personal filters. So it's never going to be about anybody else other than you. So whenever something happens in your life, all of that information runs through your own beliefs and filters, and that is what causes you to have a perception of something. And that perception projects, and that perception is the key of the strategy that sets off the behavior. So everything is internally about you, essentially. And when we take a step back on the outside world, we realize, okay, hang on, not everything is about me. People do and say what they do and say from their perception, from their model of the world. So they're just taking things personal and responding from that space. So where are you taking things personal, and how is this useful in terms of the outcomes that we're setting? So to apply this in terms of the goals that you've set, is the negative side is that if you are going to focus on something that you don't want, something that causes you to feel a negative emotion or fear or anxiety or sadness or depression or anything like that, then your unconscious mind runs that information through your own personal filters, and you will take that personal. So be very mindful that what you focus on needs to be towards what you want, so that if it takes it personal, it's going to do this anyway. Let it take personal that you want, right? So which brings me to the second one, which is the unconscious mind does not process negatives directly. So when I say I don't want to struggle, or I don't want to be stuck in fear, or I don't want to be sick, what are we actually focusing on? And the negation, the don't, gets deleted, and the rest of the sentence and the rest of the focus is what your unconscious mind actually receives as an instruction, and it takes that personal. So the positive flip side of this is it makes it easy for us to just flip that script like we did in the previous exercises to show you just how to get into focusing and into the habit of focusing on what you want, so that it processes that and takes that personal. Now, here's the positive tip, right? So when you're focusing on that future self that you want to be, when you are imagining yourself being that version of you, and like I said before, that version of you doesn't yet exist, but if this version of you doesn't start practicing, that version of you will never exist. So the more you practice that, the more your mind's going to take that personal and go, oh, okay, I'm already there. Now, setting those outcomes and whatever it is that you want to achieve, whatever success looks like to you in terms of your whole life, not just your career or financially, but every element of your life, take into account all those different thoughts and behaviors. What do you say to yourself? What do you let others say to you? Are you letting the naysayers into your environment? Because know that your mind is going to take that personal. And I'm going to talk about perception projection in one of the future videos, so keep tuned for that one, and just how incredibly powerful and how it links into cause and effect, and how you can use that to stay at course for the outcomes that you want to achieve. So if it's going to take things personal, make sure it takes things personal that is going to serve you, that's going to be part of your resources, that's going to help you achieve your goals easily and effortlessly, right? So when you think about those outcomes in your mind, I'd like you to see yourself and pull in those senses, see what you would see and hear what you would hear and feel what you would feel, and how would you think, and how would you negotiate with yourself? What would your self-talk be like if you were that version of you? You know, would it be more positive? You know, because if it's going to take it personal, then I suppose let's start changing our personal language towards ourselves in a positive way. And hence why I don't watch any programming on television that's going to influence my mind in any form or shape of a negative way. Now, yes, I do like to unplug, and yes, I do like to watch certain series, and I also just do it very mindfully when I do so. So that if there's anything like news that come up, I choose not to watch that because it certainly that doesn't give me all the information. That gives me some of the information, but there's a whole lot more information available in the world. And I'd like to get my mind to take everything personal, not just one element of something. So there's a lot of conspiracies or theories, shall I say, flying around about what's happening and what causes COVID and coronavirus and all these type of things. And that's fine. Pay attention to them, but also pay attention to what is the opposite of that. Gather all of the information. So if you do take something personal, gauge it by how you feel. If it causes you to feel negative, then cut that out of your environment because your mind doesn't need to be exposed to stuff. There's enough stresses out there. We don't have to add to the equation, right? So if it's going to take it personal, surround yourself with stuff that is going to make you feel in a way that is going to motivate you, for you to feel in a way that you are ready to take action to achieving those goals. It makes it easy for you. So I want to quickly talk about Ivan Pavlov. It might be something that a lot of you are familiar with. It didn't really start with him. It started with Twittmeyer in 1902. He wrote an article. He was the guy that used the hammer to hit his patients on the knee. It's the knee jerk reflex that they were talking about, right? So in 1902, he noted a little sentence that said, sometimes I will bring out the hammer. I haven't yet hit my patient on the knee to see the reaction, but sometimes the knee would jerk without me even hitting them. And the Russian researcher Ivan Pavlov in 1904 stumbled across this paper and was very curious and then started the exercise with the salivating dogs. For those of you who don't know what this is about, is he would introduce a certain stimulus with two combinations. So he would give the dogs food, but he would ring a bell at the same time. It was actually a tuning fork back in the day. But he introduced these two stimulus together, the sound and the food. And he did so repetitively. So I spoke about why repetition is important in the previous video, and consistency. So he did this consistently. Every time he fed the dogs, he would ring the bell. And to the point that he could ring the bell and the dogs would salivate and drool, expecting the food to be there, even if there was no food, because the mind has now connected these two stimulus together. It's called stimulus response, and it was in behavioral psychology, called behavioral psychology, and cognitive psychology is also touches on that, and some of that also in NLP, which we call anchoring. So it anchors a state, and so your mind starts taking this personal and starts building the neurological connections that create the behavior automatically. So the more you focus on these outcomes and the more you take them personal, the more your mind is going, well, it doesn't know the difference between imagined and real, so I'm already there. So already you start feeling better. Already you start feeling more excited, more hopeful. And then that automatically causes you to want to take the action. So be very mindful that your mind takes everything personal. And if there is any information, and this is what I do when I'm in, because I don't live in a cave, I surround myself with people, a little bit of a cave right now, but most of the time when you are connected to other people, they'll have their opinions and they'll share them. If it is an opinion that I think and feel that's not going to serve me, I just very silently in my mind go delete that statement. There might be some truth in it, but it's not something I want my mind to take personal. So I very mindfully tell my mind to discard that statement until I feel like I've got enough evidence and information to understand exactly what that means, and I'll do my own research. So I control as best I can the information that comes into my environment and into my nervous system, because I know it's going to take it personal, right? So when you think of your outcome, let's use a simple example. A lot of people's doing exercise, a lot of frustration around not being able to go to the gym, and running massive amounts of circles in a small space in your garden just to try and make up for the usual type of run that you'll do, the marathon that you normally do. So let's use health as an example. If you imagine yourself looking in the mirror and you are looking at yourself as in have achieved the goal, you've reached your outcome, you look exactly the way that you want to, what would you say to yourself when you are there? How would it make you feel? You know, and what would others say to you? And the more you imagine yourself being there, and very important to see yourself in the picture, right? So watch yourself, watching yourself standing and looking at your reflection in the mirror. So when you see yourself having achieved that goal, your mind's going to take it personal. It's going to go, oh, we're already there. Okay, it's done. Okay, I get it. All right, so that's what I'm working towards. And so the feeling that comes with that is a much lighter, much more positive, affects your body in a healthy way, and it allows you to believe the possibility, right? So when we don't believe possibility, if there's any doubts or any limiting beliefs or thoughts that do not support that, it will affect it. It will create resistance. So think and act and behave as if you're there, and allow yourself to take personal what serves your goals, not what creates resistance or what stops you or puts you in a negative internal state. Whatever it is that you're taking personal, make sure it is in alignment with where you want to go. So again, second rule of the mind, not focusing on negatives or not processing them directly, just reiterates why it is so incredibly important to focus on what you want. It might feel really strange and really odd to say, this is what I want and this is what I prefer, because we are not used to actually putting ourselves first. We're not used to verbalizing what it is that we want. We have this immense fear that we're going to be rejected and labeled as selfish and all those type of things. But all of these things are about you anyway. And when you're the best version of yourself, the world will get the best version of you. So focus on what you want and only take personal what will serve your outcomes. So I hope that makes some sense and makes it useful, and giving you all sorts of little reasons why it is so important to be mindful and aware of your environment and everything that you put in it, and how it affects you and how it affects your outcomes. And every single second that information is bombarding your nervous system, we're making choices, but we don't know that we're doing it. It happens so fast and unconsciously. So try and control as much, and not obsessively, just like being mindful of your environment so that you take personal what serves you and you get it to achieve your outcomes. Okay, so as always, saying you much love and hope that was useful, and see you in the next recording.